Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the individual guests or creators and do not necessarily represent the views of their employers, business partners, affiliates, or advertisers. Any opinions, advice, or statements made on this podcast are not intended to be taken as fact or professional advice. Please consult a qualified professional before making any decisions based on the content of this podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to Untapped Azania. My name is Maureen, the even the queen, the even the princess, or Phindulo The Answer, whichever one you prefer. Welcome to another episode. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, let us know what you've been tapped into so we can tap into that as well. If you're returning, what have you been doing? Also, hit us up on our socials. We'd like to know what you've been tapped into. Of course, I do not chill alone. I chill with the one and only
Mash D.
How you doing, Mash D?
I'm fresh and fresher. My fresh just gets fresher.
What's the mood? What's the temperature, bro?
Hey, to the moon.
To the moon and beyond.
Yeah, I'm cozy.
I'm cozy too. I like that. Yeah, I just said if everybody, yeah. Okay, cool. Let's get on to the show today. We're doing things a little bit different. So
Okay.
Please let me know what you've been tapped into.
I've been tapped into South Africa's Space Odyssey.
No.
To the moon and beyond, bro. To the moon and beyond.
I guess this is my dissertation. Welcome to graduation. Good morning. Yes.
Yeah, that's the hottest. And I'm not even like being biased or anything, but that's the hottest thesis I've ever seen in my life, bro.
Aww.
Like ever.
Aww.
Like ever. Forever. Yeah, it was too fire.
Oh, thank you.
Like too fire. And I was like, when I saw it, I'm just like, bro, like, why? Why haven't I actually asked? And I was so happy I hadn't asked because I was like, this is such a, it's so heartwarming the way I just like, the fact that I saw it on your grad, like, damn, like this is fire. This is fire.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I've been tapped into. Like, yeah, like wow. Boom. Yeah.
Even me
to the
sometimes.
moon and beyond, bro. That's where we're going.
Yeah. We're going to the moon, bro. We keep on saying this, but it's
To the
going
moon
to
and
happen at
everything.
some point.
It's so
At some
intertwined,
point.
bro. It's God
At some
ordained.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was nice. Graduation was nice. I'm not even going to lie. My family was there. I really wished I could have my friends there, but I was so worried about like the cap on people, and I didn't want people to stay outside and not see anything. Wouldn't have been nice. But it was so nice. Like walking across that stage. I know people are like, it's just like a day. You just like, but like walking across that stage, bro, and actually seeing your lecturers, your supervisors on there is like nice. So yeah, that was nice.
Yeah.
That was nice. That was a good day.
Yeah, I just saw on your chat, you know, the other time when you were talking about how being young and dope is embraced in other spaces like creative, like entertainment. But if you're young and you do something really great or profoundly great in sort of the professional world or the academic world, it's in as much as it's people look up on it, it's like you're marginalized to a certain extent, right? I came across this girl that graduated in actuarial at 17.
I saw that
Yeah.
from tax as well.
Mungiwa Hazel Ntuli.
Yes.
And I read the piece that they published on her, and she was talking about how like her journey started, like how when she was in grade 3, she mistakenly wrote a grade 4 test, and then she did better than everyone else. And then that's when they actually are like, oh man, you're different. But she also mentions how her colleagues baby her, like it's like the little sister they never had. It's like, bro, I'm your colleague, bro.
I'm your colleague.
Yeah. So yeah, I found that very interesting, man. It's like, it's also like, it makes you feel like, wow, I'm not doing enough, bro. Like these kids, 17 and you're graduating, not even entering varsity. Because even if you're entering at 17 to study actuarial, bro, like I know quite a few people that dropped out of actuarial, you know, they were of age. To actually get that done at 17 is is wild. It would be amazing to just see how her journey unfolds, and all hopes and like pray to God that she doesn't get marginalized and she keeps on doing great things at a young age. On a much crazier note.
Wait, I have a thought on that. Like, I like seeing that, bro. I like seeing excellence, because the more you see it, the more you can't deny it, right? The more it's in your face. Like, these kids are like good at what they do. They're as competent as any adult, any 30-year-old, 35-year, 40-year-old.
And that's the thing. They also know. Like, that's why she's able to say, bro, we're colleagues.
We're colleagues, bro. You're babying me.
Yeah, babying me.
I like seeing that, because the more you have that, the more it can get normal. That like, these kids are smart. These kids are capable. These kids deserve to be in the spaces they're in. It's not by mistake that they made it out of there by 17. It is not.
And that's why I stopped the story with the grade 3 thing, because it's not a mistake. It was inevitable. Like the fact that if you do see someone at whatever age, because I'm not even sure she was 9 in grade 3. She might have been 6, bro. but like when she actually wrote a grade 4 test by mistake, you know, the fact that she saw it and she's just like, you know, if it was someone else, they're gonna see first question like, this is not part of what we were told to study in the scope. So that's why I hope and pray that she doesn't get marginalized, because however her journey is going to unfold, given just her trajectory to this point, is just amazing. Like, you can only imagine
making board at 23.
You know, like she's Now I'm rooting for her. I need her to be in those spaces, because the more she's in those spaces, the more it's easier for other people to be in those spaces. Like, it's
the more
normalized.
She's visible, then it's normalized. Like, yo, these kids are here and they're like, they need to, which is crazy, because I also saw an interview of Dan Coda on Piers Morgan. I was gonna say this as a different untapped, what have you been tapped into topic, but like I think Ernst was talking about how Black people have less quality education, and therefore they are less competent to get work and get into the working space. And then Coda was just like coming for him, right? But I found that so interesting that like he couldn't identify why that is the case, like why Black people that are in certain spaces don't have quality education, or the education that they receive is less of quality than, like, it was a jab to himself, because it is this apartheid system that created a system where Black people could not get educated, could not get quality education. But now he's saying it as if it's something that like Black people did to themselves.
So give me an example. All right, Ernst, give me an example of one of these laws which you think is just completely unacceptable.
Well, the fact that the Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act says that all spheres of society have to be racially representative. The fact that the Employment Equity Act and the Black Economic Empowerment legislation says that a company, the BEE legislation, for example, states that a company has to comply with certain racial criteria to have certain benefits, for example, doing business with government and so forth. This whole thing about racial representativity, when we have a completely disastrous education system. So Black South Africans in particular have received education that are worse than what the average white South African gets. There's higher dropout rates in high school, there's higher dropout rates in university, significantly higher, and so forth. And so when it comes to employability, we have a very serious problem in this country. And when it comes to education, we have a very serious problem. But these issues are not addressed. In other words, the input side, actually enabling people to compete on an equal level, is not addressed. It's only the sort of trying to attempt to fix it at the end by fixing the statistics. And it doesn't work. And the fact you can see that it doesn't work by the mere fact that it hasn't helped Black people. It has rendered Black people in South Africa dependent on the government through social grants. The fact that there are now 28 million people in South Africa living off social grants, and that number is increasing. And if you include people who work for the government, it's more than half of people in South Africa get money from the government every month. It's completely unsustainable, and these race laws are facilitating this process and not addressing it.
All right, Dan Corder, you're mocking what you've just been hearing. Why?
Well, it's just fun to be in the front row of the audience for the circus, Piers, to hear this level of hilarious lying and grifting. So he doesn't name you a single race law that genuinely has anything wrong with it. Then he says the problem is implementation. And then he leaps to, oh no, forget that I was talking about laws. The education system is broken. Doesn't show you which law that has racial redress parts of into it could have caused that to happen. Piers, let me clear up these actual laws, because what they tried to do was have a deluge of hundreds of laws and hope that nobody would read them. But I went through their list. I actually covered 25 of the 142 laws on my TV show a few weeks ago. Here's what the laws are actually. They're equity and transformation laws to create meaningful fairness. And here's what actually the vast majority of the laws say. They say there needs to be meaningful representation in South Africa to reflect our country fairly on three things, not just one: race, gender, and disability. But these grifters will say that they're race laws. But if you want to follow their argument to its conclusion, why aren't they calling them sexist laws, Piers? There's representation for women right next to race. And why aren't they saying that able-bodied people are completely disadvantaged? Disability is right next to race and sex. This is a grift to call it a race law, when actually, if they are being sincere with what they are arguing, they call them sexist laws too, that are very mean to men, and ability laws too.
You're not denying that it's race laws. You're just saying that it's more than that.
Settle down, brother. I'm actually going to talk about what these laws actually say. Let me give you an easy example. The Public Services Act, Piers Morgan, here's exactly what it says. It's to address imbalances of the past to achieve a public service that broadly represents the South African people, including representation according to race, gender, and disability. That's on their list. That's on their list. And when it comes to, oh, black people haven't been helped by these laws, that is frankly shambolically untrue. We now have a black middle class in South Africa. Sure, it hasn't helped enough black people, and there's a long way to go. But do you know why we have a black middle class? One of the main reasons why we have a black middle class is that the South African government has hired black people into public service and given them the reliable, deserved jobs that have lifted them out of poverty. That didn't exist 5 years ago, 10, 15, 20, 25, or 30. There is active transformation happening through these policies. Ernst Roets is going to complain about extreme examples where there are corruption and kickbacks. And in every single system that happens, and we should try to get rid of them. But he's not been able to show a single sincere problem with any of these laws. He's Googled the word disadvantaged in acts and then called them race laws. But if we're going to follow his argument, why isn't he calling them sexist or anti-able-bodied
every government in the world is as corrupt as the South African government?
let me bring in Gareth.
That's a straw man, my friend. That is a straw man. They are corrupt governments, but you've not shown any problem with the laws. That was your job.
All right.
Your burden of proof was to show that these laws are race-based or racist, and you failed, brother. And
Thank you.
It's like the Helen Zille tweet. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
She said something like, Afrikaners set themselves up for success. They put their kids into great schools. They put they actually put their kids on. And someone's like, yo, you do understand that when all of that was happening, there was a system that actually supported these people.
Systematically.
Yeah. That supported these kids to actually grow up and be more successful. Given how marginalized the previous generations of just people of color were, they're actually doing very great.
Dude, we're talking about a 17-year-old who just graduated in actuarial science at a previously university that she couldn't have gotten into. By the way, she wouldn't have been able to go into that university if it wasn't for the quote-unquote racial laws that they keep on arguing on. But she's brilliant, and she's 17, and she was able to go into that system and actually excel, even as the system as it is today, with its flaws and all. She was able to get out of there today. Right? So it
wasn't even smooth sailing. Even with being inside, she does outline every other sort of barrier to her graduating as a kid. So...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, your second untapped.
On something less sexier. Starlink. And just I'm less on the whole Trump Cyril meetup. Yeah. But I mean, the time we actually asked the Untapped community what we should talk about, someone brought up Starlink. Yeah. And I'm glad that we didn't get an opportunity to up to this point. Because now it's becoming very clear that we're almost at a point where the introduction is inevitable.
Yeah.
And I just think that I'm thinking a lot of things, but mainly I saw this clip. I think it's a member of Senate outlining what I also outlined, in that Elon was not democratically elected, in as much as Trump was like Doge is a department that was created probably because he was one of the main funders, if not the main funder of Trump's campaign, right? And he infiltrated the government for self-interest. It wasn't for the benefit of the American population or the American people. Because if you look at sort of maybe, something I saw being outlined about the federal FAA, I think it's Federal Aviation Agency or something like that. I think the department responsible for transport, if I did not get it right. But the lady was talking about how when Doge infiltrated, because the purpose of Doge was efficiency, like we're going to go into these departments and make them more efficient. He dismantled the communication contract that existed and replaced it with Starlink.
And so I want to ask the sponsor of the bill, we've seen, for example, just a couple of weeks ago, as the FAA was infiltrated by Doge and by Elon Musk, it's my understanding that he replaced the communications contract for the FAA with his own Starlink program. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And it's also my understanding that Mr. Elon Musk, who has also infiltrated NOAA, which is the agency that does our weather service and tells the Americans and the world that, what's going to happen with the weather, that there's also indications inside the agency that he would like to have SpaceX become the primary contractor for the satellite systems for NOAA. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And we've also heard that Mr. Elon Musk, who the DoD secretary almost gave access to secret war plans for China last week, is also angling to get billions of dollars in new contracts under the Department of Defense. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So I don't know about all of you guys, but this sure looks like a scam to me. I mean, right, they're calling it waste, fraud, and abuse, but really what we see is a special government employee who's a private businessman. He's the wealthiest man in the world, and he is literally infiltrating these federal agencies that he has a personal financial interest in. He's cutting the programs, he's eliminating staff, and then he is essentially positioning himself to put into place private contracts. Now,
so I mean, it does not take a genius to understand what's going on there, even in the South African context, just to bring it back home, is that whole conversation that you're saying around the genocide. It's clear. I mean, there's the ICG case that some people bring up as a big part of the reason why Trump's pissed at us. But I feel like there's a genocide in South Africa conversation is Elon trying his best to get an opportunity to get Starlink in the country, because that feeds into the narrative that South Africa has racist policies in the business context, right? Why is Amazon thriving? Why is
there's a lot of,
so I also saw recently Sinawo Tambo, I'm not sure what subcommittee he's specifically in, but he was questioning the Minister of Communications on sort of the framework that they're adopting to endorse the whole Starlink thing, where I think it has something to do with not necessarily amending, but that's what they're also trying to do. But it allows for companies that are of a certain sort of benefit to exist outside of just what BEE entails. So, and the basis for Starlink is, hey, they going to increase there's going to be an increase of jobs. And what he actually outlined is, how do they increase jobs if the company is being run remotely in a country in the West? How does that benefit us, like locally, right? One. Secondly, there's the whole conversation around, hey, this gives people in the rurals or less formal settlements access to the net. And it's like,
That was a big thing.
have you
That was
assessed the costs enough to understand that, right? And even if you're making the argument that maybe the costs as we know them aren't the costs that they're going to charge in the South African context, make that clear then. Like, you can't just throw ideas like, hey,
it's going to be cheaper. It's going to be more accessible. It's going to be...
and then there's the whole thing around, I saw Nigeria sort of censored them. And part of the reason was around security. And that's also where it's a thing. Like, you have countries like the Ukraine, where I think there was a point when he just shut it down, you know? So the fact that he can say, yo, I'm helping you, but if you don't act in our best interest, we can just shut it down.
That's something
So for me, I feel like even if from a cost standpoint, it means that it's gonna be cheaper, we shouldn't just endorse that, because you see a lot of these things going on where it's ruthless in that a product or a service offering will be introduced, and because the company is well off enough to charge a very cheap price and then kill its competitors, then it's got a monopoly. Then it can set the price and can dictate how things happen. So I'm also like, that's inevitable given how Elon moves, because the intention, it's like, it's become very clear what the intention is.
And also, what does it mean for locals, like service providers that have been playing in that space,
and that are giving people
actually
jobs,
creating jobs within the space, right? Like, they are based in this country, creating jobs in the country. If we bring something like Starlink that actually just like is controlled remotely, what happens to those jobs? And mind you, if they're not, but I mean, I guess that's something to think about when you like talk about legislation and quote unquote racial laws. It's like, they're meant to protect the country from things like that, right? To say like, you can't set up something that's going to disadvantage the entire or a majority of the population going forward, and just for the benefit of just one company. Like, it does not make sense to me. If you were coming and saying, yo, we're going to set this up in a way that it's fair competition to everybody else, we're also setting up shop here, people are going to get jobs here, it makes sense. Yeah, showcase, right? Mara, as reviewing our legislation and finding make-arounds around a specific entity, even that in principle to me does not make sense, right? If you're going to review legislation, review it for the greater good of a community, a greater good of the entrepreneurial space, for example, the greater good of, but if you're reviewing it just for one person or one company, to make way for one company, what about everybody else that plays in that field? What about everybody else that has been raising concerns to government about specific things that don't work for them? I mean, if we talk about, just because this is topical, I'll talk about space laws, bro. There's been so many calls to develop and to advance certain parts of our legislation in South Africa, right? That has not happened. But Elon comes and he says, no, look, and he creates a false narrative that everybody can see is a false narrative. All of us now sit and are like, yeah, now we can find a way. Now there's a workaround. Now there's like, it almost feels like this, what people talk about all the time when they say like, things work out for the rich. Is true. It's almost like we're seeing it play out right in front of us. Because what about everybody else that has been crying about things that are not working in all these other spaces that has not been developed? And we see this false narrative, guys. It's a false narrative that we all can see that has been perpetuated by a specific individual. now everything else can move. Just from a sense perspective, that does not make sense.
Yeah.
And as much,
no.
I was going to say, as much as there is a development that can come from this thing, right? I think we should also sense check it from a greater good perspective. Like, what do you call it? The
cost-benefit analyses.
The moral
limits of the market.
Moral limits of the market. Like, yes, we get it. It will make Trump happy, and maybe it will make your rand look nice, and it will make Elon get away. But what does it mean for everybody else that works at all those other service providers that are in the country, that have jobs, that are able to feed their families on a day-to-day basis? In the future, in the next 10, the next 15, what does that mean? You know?
There's a clip, I think I sent it to you a while ago, where this guy is pointing out the difference between China's free market economy and what a capitalist system works like. And sort of like basically outlining that an economy being a free market economy where ideas thrive and innovation thrives does not come at the, like, people use the free market economy sort of concept interchangeably with capitalism, but it doesn't mean that the giving up capitalism comes at the cost of having a free market economy, and it's just socialism. It's just pure Marxism.
Well, China is a market economy, and it's a vibrant market economy, but it is not a capitalist country. Here's why. There's no way a group of billionaires could control the Politburo as billionaires control American policymaking. So in China, you have a vibrant market economy, but capital does not rise above political authority. Capital does not have enshrined rights. In America, capital, the interest of capital and capital itself has risen above the American nation. The political authority cannot check the power of capital. And that's why America is a capitalist country, but China is not.
And he was basically making the example of capital does not necessarily have, or it does not at all, actually. Jack Ma is a great example of that. Capital does not have direct influence on legislation, on government policy, right? But if you look at it from a South African context, more so even from a American context, it's enshrined.
Now, I also want to take a minute to talk about some of the social programs that we're also highly concerned about, because as we know, our colleagues across the aisle passed a resolution, a budget framework a couple of weeks ago here in the House that is setting the stage for one of the largest tax breaks in American history to go to billionaires. So they're robbing the federal government. They're getting ready to give themselves massive multi-billion-dollar contracts, and then they're going to rob our most vulnerable members of our communities, low-income families. They're going to dismantle the Medicaid system. Now they're talking openly about dismantling Social Security. And then they're going to take those so-called savings, which are you, the American people, and give permanent tax breaks to the same guy that is dismantling the federal government and giving himself private contracts. This is a total scam, a total scam. Like, folks need to wake up. This is not about waste, fraud, and abuse. This is a scam. They are,
like capital is what moves the market. It's what it's like capital creates policy. It dictates, dictates the policy
we're seeing
framework.
it right in time.
Yeah, like if you like part of, I mean, he did it in his first term, but like right now, once again, Trump's creating tax laws that are literally directly beneficial to the multi-rich, the billionaires, the centimillionaires and stuff. And it's like, why? Like those people aren't marginalized. You get me? Like, so it's clear in who funds government. Like the whole thing around having individuals being able to fund a political party's campaign or an individual's campaign. Like, it's clear what you're doing there. You hear me? Like, if I'm gonna be able to finance Maureen's campaign to become something, it should be clear from the word go that I have an incentive to tell Maureen something, and Maureen has an incentive to listen to me. Right? And if I'm not even in government, like I'm in business, every single thing I'm going to influence Maureen into doing is to my benefit. It's not true. It's not necessarily. So it's the same thing when you think of the controversial Cyril campaign when he had finance it, and you see what's happening now. Like, right? He's going there to speak on our country. So I as an individual am represented. Why is Ernie else representing me? Like, I love Ernie else. I love seeing him play golf, but why is he speaking on my behalf? Right? Like,
I hear you. But I feel like even just how the president dealt with that, it was to cater to Donald Trump. It was to be like, these are the people that you will listen to. Here they are telling you what is happening. Maybe you will listen if these people that you probably, because I feel like if he had just brought a very influential black person in there who knows what they're talking about, even if they were telling him facts, I doubt he would have listened. I feel like it would have gone out even worse than what we've seen on this, because I don't think that's the people that he would listen to. He listens to rich old white men. And rich old white men went there and told him that this is not true, it's not happening. And he still proceeded to be like, dim the lights. Let me show you what's happening.
But you see, I think I hear you fully and I understand. And probably that's why he's dubbed probably the best negotiator we've ever had as a nation, right? But I think that the cost of his approach is just it's too much, man. I think you know when Mason's like, we not your little niggas. Like, I think that could have been a better approach. You know, I think that
there's somebody that took a video of him saying that I will tell him that he can keep his America. I will keep my South Africa.
Yeah,
maybe. And then they juxtaposed it with what actually happened, which is a little bit different.
Yeah, like we were.
But I mean,
we. Maybe that wasn't supposed to happen. Maybe there was absolutely no need. If the cost of actually having that conversation, having that back and forth is that, because it's like it came across as if, and maybe we don't at this point. Maybe I'm not well versed enough, but it really came across as we have zero bargaining power, right? I would much rather have had someone like Naledi Pandor represent us. Right, because I've heard her when she was in the same portfolio that Ronald Lamola, and he was also being baby. Like, yo, this one, he was also friends with that guy that was on the video, but look at him now. You know, it was like he's petting his little dog. So, but the our Minister of International Relations, in a conversation like that, had nothing to say.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
I don't think if Naledi Pandor was Minister of International Relations, that was going to happen.
But then again, I don't think that that's somebody that he would have loved to meet with. Do you get what I mean? Like, I do not think
like so all these controversial calls. You know, in Parliament when Julius called out Cyril to say, yo, apparently Rupert put you on a call with Elon. Yeah. How are you as a president allowed to have private calls? Like, you should have continued doing that instead of like making this about us. You give me, like, when you start having any else there, bro, like, you have people that you know are not even gonna be condemn the genocide.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. That was wild, actually. That was wild. Because I felt like there were people that were there to say, bruh, this is not happening. And then there were people that just like were there to. But
there were people that tried.
It's also like the people that were there to be like, it's not happening. We're also still like, we still need your help. And I'm like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, it seems like we have zero bargaining power. Like, even if you look at the lady, right? Where I was even telling one of my friends, like, I'm so happy, Uri, I have my own TV, bro. You know, like I can watch news by myself and decipher, because it's also like when you see discourse and it's like someone's being celebrated, rightfully so, and it's like, but we're not pointing out the flaws in even what they were arguing. Like that lady, right? I feel like what I can't remember her name, sorry, but like I feel like in as much as her pointing out, crime is dire in South Africa and old ladies are being raped and all of that, right? I feel like when it came to the land conversation, we've gotten to a point where we're clear where we stand, but she literally compromised on where we stand. Like she made it, she emphasized the willing buyer, willing seller narrative, which isn't umbrella. It's not like all situations. Bro, there are situations where like land must be taken without compensation, and like we must be able to say that boldly. Yeah. Even with the Julius video, right? Where it's like, he's just from a minority party.
But that's not context of the thing. That's why I actually like CD Madia's interview, because she had like less than 3 minutes. And in that time that she had, she was like, bro, there's context with the song. First of all, you can't just take it out of context and expect us to agree with the narrative that you are pushing, because that's not true. It's an apartheid struggle song. First of all, if you get that narrative right, you will understand why. And secondly, the singing of that song and the correlation to the death does not make sense.
It does not spew like that song. There is no context in which you've had a situation where that song being sung led to deaths. It does not spew racial tension,
because that's even the way it's not that's not what it's literally
you see. So that's why you could have him say something like that, and then Trump's response is, then why don't you arrest him? And it's like you set yourself up for failure by not defending yourself from the word go.
Tidi even mentioned in an interview that the debate that's currently happening is for us to understand as South Africans, do we still need to be singing that song in the context that we are in currently as South Africans? That's the current debate. It's not, he's a minority. It's not. That's not what it is. Because even when he's singing the song, there's people that are singing the song with him. So it's not like, oh no, he's just singing it out of some Norway place. Like, that does not exist. He's singing the song with people that understand the context, that are not going to go out and kill people. But we have a true kind of correlation with the amount of people that died during apartheid.
And you see, that's the thing. So I think also it was very much, how, and this was a very black parent versus white parent thing I used to see when we were still in high school, where we would get in trouble as kids, and when the white parents come through, right, they defend their kids. Yes. But you do understand that, like, this, like, my white homie's in trouble, but they're gonna reprimand this kid at home. You get me? With the black parents, I don't know what they're trying to prove
in front of people,
embarrass you. So I feel like that's what they threw Julius under the bus. Unnecessarily so.
And they could have given context.
They should have protected him fully. They should have. There's nothing that was presented there that I feel like you shouldn't be defending Julius for. You hear me? Like, they should have defended him and then have a family meeting when they come back.
But also, we're already having the family meeting.
We always be having
the family meeting with Julius.
Yeah, that bothered me for real.
Because in this country, we argue with Julius all the time.
No one got over 5 out of 10. Like, from the people we send there. Like 4 out of 10 was the most. Yeah, I really like the moment.
What a tough thing to actually witness. Because I was watching it in and out, because I just had so much anxiety in what was happening. Like, when you're watching something and you're looking at us just there being like, when you're and I know, I think it was Taba who in our previous video, when we were talking, I think you mentioned something about a Ugandan president.
And then he gave us like the actual political terminology around it.
Around what he was actually doing, right? Maybe there's that. Like, there's people that are going to look at that whole situation.
Very true.
And look at it and be
Very
like,
true.
from a political perspective, he's doing 1, 2, or 3.
If there's
one
thing that I will say from that context, in as much as I don't know those things, is how negotiating, like I said, it's an art form, dude. And one thing about Cyril is I feel like what he was there for, he got. That's what I'm saying. Like, his level of artistry in the realm of negotiation, it's unmatched, right? But I also, in my assessment of the situation, was like, yo, personally, I would suck at that game because I'd probably spew a few,
But that's why a few people are not president, right? Because you're going to need somebody like that. What did we speak about on the pod or on one of our calls? We were talking about how people have spoken about how Cyril has been, Cyril has been great in crisis. Like, he's dealt with COVID, people, like, just every time there's been a crisis since, he's come out like proper, like dealt with it. The whole thing with the DRC came out proper. Even now came out proper. Even sent people
Rwanda,
to
proper.
ICJ, proper. Like, he's there, proper, right? And it's like, there's a reason why he's there as president, and he sits on that seat and he holds it in his capacity. It's just that we, as the people that are looking outside, me and you probably wouldn't have gone there and said, yeah, you know what, I should have bought you a plane. We wouldn't have thought about that kickback. We wouldn't have thought about that line. But he knows what he's doing. So he goes there with the people that he's with, but he sneaks in a few lines where you can tell or he's actually taking a dig, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, what else, dog? Just spoke about what you've been tapped into.
Yeah.
What have I been tapped to? Oh, also on a less sweeter note, Olerato Mungale.
Oof.
Yeah.
I thought about that, but I was like, those are the kinds of conversations that every time I speak about on our calls, you're like, we're not going to talk about on the pod.
Because they trigger me. A lot of the times when I see something like that, I get triggered because what in the world? And because I get very...
You get touched.
I get touched because what are
sense.
we doing, bro? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
That's why, like, I don't like engaging with content like that because of the fact that it triggers me, right? But in certain situations, I have to, like, I have to be in that space.
Yeah, we're
like,
deep
I have
in
to
now.
be triggered, and I have to sit in being triggered and being anxious and just touched and emotional because every other day is something like this, guys. Like, what are we doing? Like, what the hell are we doing? What the hell are we, like, where must I exist? What precautions must I take?
It's impossible.
What precautions must I
it's like
take?
when you think about precautions, right? Because it's I have my niece's location at all times, right? But it's also like how I think about it is, also my niece was like, the whole your face isn't for makeup thing, that was cap.
I have a thing on
my
that.
niece called out the cap.
We're gonna hold
my
that
niece
for
called
that.
out that cap.
I have a note
I
on that.
almost forgot. But yeah, I just think to myself, if she's ever in a dire situation, because she came to meet one of these wild ass niggas, we're amongst them, bro. Like even the old men. Now I'm just thinking like, bro, it's fine, dude, because and it doesn't help or do anything to say oh man or to not say oh man, but like niggas is dangerous, bro. Like, I'm afraid of men, and that's what I'm trying to say in saying that, like, even if I do have her location, right, it's like the best I can do is just go identify her body, or at least know where was the last place she was at. You get me? Like, I can't, like, I'm not in a position to help. That's what this situation made me realize. Like, there's very little help I can give, because even if it's the point that I do recognize that something might be up, it's obviously too late. Like, it's not it might be too late, it's too late. That's why I say, like, we've gotten to a point where the precautionary measures are impossible. So I think the only sort of solution that I see is the repercussions need to be so dire that you need to have men literally afraid of engaging in these gruesome acts.
Like, the thing is, right? The things that mess up your head and ruin your life, right? It's not the gruesome acts. It's the stuff we live with every day that has been normalized. So by the time you get to the gruesome acts, you have done the damage already. Like the fact that when I walk out and I say I'm going to buy bread, right? Depending on which area I'm in, right? I know I'm gonna meet some people that are just gonna say some stuff to me, that are gonna feel entitled to come and talk to me, to come and get my number, or call me out, or say words. That is normal, right? And if that's normal, right, what's the next step from that? What's the next step from this thing that's next? What's up this step, right? All of these steps that get you to the gruesome acts are normal. You don't just get to the gruesome acts.
Yeah.
You don't just wake up one day and somebody has done the most heinous crime in the world and no. There's small little things that we've normalized on everyday life, right? And we've made it okay. And we don't call it out when it happens within our friendship groups, within our families, within wherever our communities, we are not calling them out. And when things like this, we get like shocked and we're like, oh my God, no. You have allowed it in your house, in your friendship groups, at church, at school. We have allowed it. Teachers get away with these things. Preachers get away with these things. We just had a whole trial and the guy was let out because come on, guys. Like, come the fuck on. There's no reason for us to be here. There's no reason for me to share my location with all of my brothers all the time.
Yeah.
Why must I live why is that something that I should live with every day? And that's if something has terribly gone wrong. But on my everyday life, dude, on my every single life, I have to be conscious of where I'm going, what I'm wearing, who I say no to, who I give my numbers to, because I'm scared they're gonna do something to me.
So there's just something wrong in our fabric. If we take sort of how the Japanese, right, are considered a clean group of people, because if you host them in your country and you're playing a football game, when they're done at the end of the game, they clean up and they all go throw the things in they're known for that, right? In the Olympics, whatever, the Japanese fans are gonna do that. But like, you have countries where people are just gonna leave everything laying around. Oh, they're workers that are gonna clean that up, right? But it also sort of means that that's sort of enshrined. It's in their culture. It's in the moral fabric.
Moral fabric.
So, sort of like we need LO to change, right? We need our curriculum to change. We need before we get to, because the repercussions that's sort of the end game. It's too late.
Yes. By the time you get to repercussions, right? Do you know how many? Just not raped. Let's not even go to rape, right? Let's just leave rape out of it, right? Let's just talk about the comments that people make to girls on a daily. Babies, kids, primary school kids. I can tell you stories. Primary school, not even high school, not even even before you know what life is, people are making these comments about how you look, about your body parts, about just how you survive in the world. You're consciously like being told to be aware of, and it's like even to the highest level where you are aware and you're taking precautions, it doesn't help. So that has to tell you that it's not precautions. It's not what we wear. It's not where we go. It's not how we look. It's just there's something wrong in our moral fabric that needs fixing. And no legislation, none of that is gonna fix your moral fabric.
I hear you fully.
I don't know.
Because you remember you remember when there was that rape case and someone came out and they were speaking about it was a boy from the north. Like the kid's mom is a famous actor.
Oh yeah.
And then this guy came out and he's like, North kids, and he was talking about growing up and how they used to treat girls and at their house parties and all of that. So he was talking about the inevitability
of things like that happening.
Of things like that happening because of, but also when he got arrested, you had girls in the comment section saying, yo, why did she even report? He should have forced me. You get me? Like, so I get that. Like, there's just something that's innately, like, even with this situation, the Olerato situation, you had the cops still say something like, the spokesperson of the SAPS still say something like, yo, we urge women to still take precautionary measures. Like, what other precautionary measures could she have taken?
I'm not gonna stop sharing my location with my brothers.
No, you don't. But like I was saying, it's at this point, the best your brother can do is identify your body. That's what it's like. The best your brother can do is have an idea.
Somewhere decides today is my last day.
Yeah.
Today is my last day.
It's your last day, yeah. So the best that he can do, or the sort of privilege, for lack of a better word, he has by having privy to that is just simply information that's going to help him to understand where to start. Yeah, like this is her last location.
That's just where you start. But like the reason you are on high alert is probably because you've noticed a change in behavior or something like that. You're unable to reach me or something is happening.
It's already too late.
By that time,
it's too late.
So I can't go on dates. I can't go to school. I can't go to the hospital. I can't go to church. I can't buy bread. Where am I supposed to
There was
live?
a doctor story also. Bro. Wanted to rape a child or raped a child. I'm not too sure. But it's also, Like, yeah.
Like, I can't go to parties. I can't, like, come on. Like, at some point, something has to give. We can't keep on saying RIP, or sign this petition, or do this, or do that. And it's like, oh, it's a crisis in South Africa. And then?
Yeah.
Then?
Yeah, it's a mess.
So, yeah. And even if when things like this trigger you and put you on urge, you have to talk about it. Because if you don't talk about it and you have this platform at the very least, who else is going to talk about it? And where do you expect the change to come from?
I hear you fully.
So you are forced to sit in your anxiety. You are forced to sit in these uncomfortable spaces, even in the times where you're supposed to be sitting and mourning. What a wild time.
What a wild time. Wild time, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
What else? Oh my God. I'm so sorry. These things trigger me, guys. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks.
Something else that happened this week was one of our videos did a thing on TikTok and ended up on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm scared of Twitter. I'm scared of Twitter.
Yeah.
But I actually think that just seeing that, I liked the fact that it was a random video. So it wasn't like a video where we were like, that's such a good video. It's a cool video. It was a video that we just posted and we're like, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it did pretty well. And I loved seeing the engagement in the comments, because I think when we sit with just the two of us, we have certain views that we probably just agree on, right? And we see things a certain way based on where we come from, probably just our perspective on life, whatever.
Biases, yeah.
Yeah. But like when you see something like that happen, you see how different we are and how different people are in the comment section, because people have differing views, man. And there's people that support those views. It's not like somebody saying something and they're just the only person that says it and nobody agrees with them. There's like somebody says a statement and there is like a whole thread of people supporting that statement, or a whole thread of people just arguing with that person throughout, right? So it's like, I loved seeing that engagement. It's something that like I look forward to. It's scary now, because I'm like, do I say what I really think, or do I say what's safe? Because I think what's safe is not gonna get me as much backlash, but what I really think might probably put me in some hot waters. You know what I mean? And also just having your voice and your likedness just like out there. I know we have this pod and this is a platform and it's gonna do what it does, but I don't think in my head I've kind of made peace with that. Like it's gonna happen at some point.
Yeah. Our church youth group, because I haven't had the conversation at like youth and stuff. One of my mates sent it to the group, like, Mash, you don't say. And then I was like, God damn, like the SIU needs you, bro. You're not supposed to be at church. You go work for the SIU. But yes, like that's the thing where there's also this very similar to like an Overton window where when content gets to people that aren't even in your circle, you can't even limit how far it goes. You can't limit how far it goes. I remember ages ago, man, B posted something on Twitter, and I was so lucky because I really go on Twitter these days, and I was like so happy that I went on Twitter the moment he posted, and I was like, nah, B, take it down. But like now I wouldn't say the same thing, because I'm also like, I think we need to get to a point where even the people that we know, we give as much, because it's like, it's there. It's a public platform. We've put ourselves out there, right? And the thing about it is I've also gotten to a point where, man, I'm just a lot less fearful, or I probably just don't even care what people don't have to say. Both sides, like even the comments where there were people where someone would say something where they're taking what you said out of context, and then someone comes and they're like, nope, you completely misunderstood her, and they point out exactly what you were saying and exactly what you meant. Both people like don't like, there isn't one that ignites me more. It's like it's on the same spectrum, where there was a point in my life where the fact that you're being defended would interest me more. And now it's also just giving me sort of like a level of solitude that, dude, even if anything happens ever where we trend for whatever good or whatever bad, I'm so balanced,
I think also to your point about like people commenting and like replying to each other on the comment section, like I kind of realized like there's people that articulated what I wanted to articulate
even better.
Like I was like, yes, that's what I wanted to say, but they've said it, and some people backed it up with things that they've researched, that they've seen, and it's like, yes, that's what this is about. It's like I see it from this perspective, and I see it up until this point, possibly, because just of what I've been exposed to. But somebody else has seen a lot more. They've researched, they've written about it, they've went out into a whole rabbit hole and found details that are not available just easily on public platforms, and they put it on this, and it's like just easily accessible. It's like, yes, that's it. You know what?
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, so
your question.
Weekly question, my dog.
Yeah.
The weekly question, and it's very like close to what we were talking about just now.
Okay.
But you can interpret it in whatever way that you would like to. The question is, where do you feel the safest?
Anything can happen anywhere, bro. But like, I'd say I probably feel the safest at home, like home.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe not even in the city. Like when I'm home, probably that's when I feel the safest. Because also at home, one, I'm rarely ever alone. So there's just that level of protectionism, even if anything was to happen. So I'd say, yeah, I probably feel safest when I'm at home. Yeah.
Okay.
How about you?
I think home as well. I think I feel safe when I'm at home. But the reason why I thought of that question was because I've been with my mom this week. And she chose to live with me this week. Like she was like, she's gonna be with me. So
To the moon.
so that made me feel nice. But I think I really felt safe when she was around. Like, and I'm starting to feel that safe is her. Like she feels safe. She feels safe. So wherever she is, I think I'd probably just feel safe.
You know what's crazy, man? Unfortunately, is like when I was thinking home, right? Part of the reason why I paused before I said it was like I literally just tapped into grief where I was like, dude, like what happens if my parents are dead? You get me? Like, because it completely changes that trajectory. Because part of like me saying home and like the fact that it's homely and like I have this sort of protectionism is because those people are there.
Yeah.
You mean like now you just talking about your mom? It's like she's there.
She's there.
Damn.
But I don't know what would happen when she transitions or after she transitions, because you don't know what level of what safety, what would bring you safe, like the feeling of safety when she's not there. Maybe it will be something that she used to do, that she used to like doing, and maybe that makes you feel good or makes you feel safe.
Or maybe just her presence,
just
is
a presence
in the ether.
Yeah, you know, so things like that. I don't know. But with that said,
Peace out for the peace out.
Ba-ba-ba-bum.